If your football team had one option in their playbook, the results probably wouldn't be great. The same could be said for your investments. SIBO index options like SPX and XSP can help expand your investing strategies with cash settlement and potential tax advantages. If you're ready for a more dynamic game plan, head to betterwithoptions.com. SIBO, life is better with options. Your investments could be too. There are risks associated with SIBO company products. Review the disclosures and disclaimers at SIBO.com/US_disclaimers.
This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and NIL Game Changers. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Welcome to Iowa. Yes, indeed, great to be here. Penn State and Iowa tonight. That'll be at 9:30, or excuse me, 9 o'clock Eastern time. And we'll be on the air beginning at 8:30 tonight. And this will be an extended road trip for Penn State. We will do this show today here in Iowa City as you're listening right now, and then in Ann Arbor on Monday. And we'll spend the rest of the week in the Sunbury Motor Studio in State College. And then we'll begin the week after in the Sunbury Motor Studio in State College. And then we're going to do 3 shows from Los Angeles. Friday, Monday, and Tuesday coming up. So just to give everybody an idea. Before we get to Dave Spadaro, let's tell everybody that this show is being brought to you by, in this half hour, by Brewers Outlet. Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket, imports domestics, micro brews, the best selection of beer anywhere, wine coolers, water, soft drink, snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and out every day. 6 great flavors of slushies. They now have ready-to-drink cocktails, such as High Noon, Crown Royal, Jack Daniels, and the pickle bar led by the 2 constants, the best actually, the Barrels and the Dills. Indeed, second to none. Outlet Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. And while in Ann Arbor, I'll be watching the Eagles and the Commanders at 3 o'clock on Sunday. Dave Spadaro joins us. Dave, what a pleasure. Always great to have you back.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here. Excited about Sunday, and I think it's going to be a great game, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I do, because if there's been a team in recent years, whether it was Ron Rivera or now Dan Quinn, for whatever reason, and maybe you, because you've seen it in person, why have the Commanders at times been the team that's matched up decently or actually pretty well with the Eagles? Because most teams don't. Why does Washington match up with them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say they've matched up very well, and it's always kind of interesting when you look at your intra-division, I guess within the division rivals. There's always kind of like, well, we have that team's number, or that team has our number. You know, with Washington, it's always been a really, really close game. And yeah. I don't know. I really can't explain it. I don't know. I just know that Washington, no matter whether they're having a down year, a good year, an okay year, it's always a weird, close game. And that's what I'm expecting Sunday. And I don't think I do have an explanation for it.
Yeah, I mean, because I've always told people, Dave, it's always interesting in sports. Team A can easily beat Team B. Team B can easily beat Team C. And then something weird, Team C can beat Team A. They'll go, why? I said they must match up. I mean, it's just that sports is strange like that. I want to get to Barkley for a moment. I feel like I'm watching, and look, if anybody knows, I guess I would know because I've watched him so much here, that he's like the great home run hitter. He is like watching Bryce Harper, Mike Schmidt, somebody like that, where you feel like every single time when they come to the plate, they can hit a home run. I feel like every time Barkley touches the ball, it's a 70-yard play potentially. What's it been like for you to watch him on an every-game basis?
Remarkable. And I've seen great players. I've seen great players for 30 years here with the Eagles, and there have been great players. And the best of all, I mean, more than 30 years ago, Reggie White, who was similar in that you just knew that he was going to make an impact. And with Saquon, every single game, he makes an impact. And you're on the edge of your seat waiting for him to bust the big one. So, as good as he is with the home runs, when you started saying he reminds you of home run hitters, the name that jumped to mind, and it was a really weird name, and I'll be honest. It was you were. I was afraid you were going to say Dave Kingman, and you were going to go, well, either hits a home run or strikes out. And I would tell you that Saquon never strikes out because he's always moving forward and creating something, and you know that there's always somebody who's keying on him. And but if it's not a home run, it's a single, double, triple. He just is just one of those running backs who has been so durable, so tough inside. And I think that nobody really talks about the numbers he's put up in terms of carries, touches, inside yardage, yards after contact. But from overall what it's been like, you have to step back and go, this is something extraordinary, because his year has been unlike anything we've ever seen.
I agree with you, Dave. Exactly. And Saquon knows I would never compare him to Dave Kingman.
Right. But you know what I mean. Like Dave Kingman was either a strikeout or a home run.
I know. I know. But Saquon doesn't have strikeouts. I mean, it's amazing.
Amazing.
The play that told me everything was the last touchdown run. Only the hash marks are shoveled at that point. He makes that cut about a yard inside the hash mark on snow, and he acted like he was cutting on dry land. That was a remarkable play.
Yeah, and he punctuated it with the helmet slapping and the show of expression, which I think was so refreshing to see. And you recognize just how much this all means to Saquon Barkley and how much he's enjoying playing football. Again, that if you don't know football, all you're focusing on is him in the clear running down the field. But to get to that point, an inside run that he bounces outside, the Rams once again brought a run blitz. They filled the gaps very well, and Saquon sees a little bit of daylight and adjusts, and those quick feet allow him to bounce outside, and boom, he's vertical. And it's so great to see a player who is a superstar. And there've been in my career here have been the Reggie Whites, the Brian Dawkins, Terrell Owens for a season, and Donovan was a star, but not a superstar. Right. And then I would put Saquon Barkley right there.
Well, let me talk about the defense for a moment. The defense last year, especially down the stretch, didn't play well. Enter Vic Fangio. Dave, how long do you think it took for Vic Fangio to really get in tune with his personnel and how he wanted to play? And once he did get in tune, how special has it been?
Yeah, I think the turning point was after the bye week, and they were able to put Cooper DeJean in to replace Avonte Maddox at nickel. Avante's had a really nice career, but he's just a little undersized and really got picked on from day one. I thought the Packers in Brazil really went after Avonte, and this is no slight on Avonte, who I love. But he's a smaller guy. And to get Cooper up to speed that quickly, to get him ready to go, very, very impressive. And then you just saw it get better and better. And then kind of in those, if you remember back to that time, they played the Browns with the troubles that they had offensively, particularly at the quarterback position with Deshaun Watson. And then they played the Giants with Daniel Jones. And both times the Eagles defense dominated. And it gave the Eagles, I'm not going to say they were preseason feel games, but they were games against two really bad offenses that gave the defense time to get its act together, gave Vic time to really find out what this personnel grouping could do, and have Moro Ojomo inside and Zach Baun in at linebacker, and how are you going to use Nakobe Dean, and where's the safety position? How's that going to all shake out? And all of these things, and then they just kind of hit their stride and got better and better. And look, I didn't think last week was one of their best games, to be honest with you. I thought the Rams moved the football up and down the field on the Eagles at times, but they were able to take the football away twice. They were able to hold at the very end of the game. So this defense will be put to the test, no doubt, once again here on Sunday against Jaden Daniels. But they've seen Jaden two times. This will be his third time. I think they're as ready for him as you could possibly be.
Yeah, I'm going to get to the Ram thing in a moment because I thought the end of the game, there's a couple things that, if I'm an Eagles fan, would kind of bug me a little bit.
Yep.
I'll get to that in a second. I got to ask about Zach Baun. On a team that has, Mitchell, DeJean, Blankenship, Smith, Jalen Carter and so forth, what has Baun meant to what we're seeing success-wise with this Philadelphia defense?
He's the epitome of what the Eagles are all about and why this franchise is really good. And I'm going to tell you right now why. Again, this is the 8th time in 24 years that the Eagles are in the NFC Championship game. That is one out of every 3 years. And I know there's only one Lombardi trophy. I get it. But to reach the Final Four 8 times in 24 years is insane. And why is that? It works with the Philadelphia Eagles. And Baun is an example of a personnel department that recognizes something in Baun. A coach who says, okay, bring him in. We're going to try him out. He comes in and they go, well, let's maybe move him inside. And then all of a sudden, we've got a great athlete here. Vic Fangio says, I can make these skills work in my system. And boom, you got a guy who is a marginal player in New Orleans, a role player in New Orleans, who's a Pro Bowler, an All-Pro, a finalist for the Associated Press Defensive Player of the Year. This doesn't happen. But it's an example of everybody being on the same page. It's an example of understanding your personnel when he gets here. It's an example of making sure that you fit your scheme around the personnel and that you've got some flexibility. You always hear coaches saying, I'm running my system, my system, my system, my system. Well, Nick Sirianni said it for 4 years now. It's not your system. It's how you tailor what you believe in schematically to the talent that you have. And for Vic Fangio to put Zach Baun in the spots that he's put him in, and for Zach to take advantage of this, certainly it helps when you have a defensive line that cleans up like the Eagles clean up front. It's an amazing story. And Zach is just a young man who has found his home. I believe he'll be here for a long time. It's certainly, I would imagine, a priority for Howie Roseman to keep Zach Baun. And I just love the story. I think it's just really a microcosm of why the Philadelphia Eagles are so good.
Great answer. Okay, now let's get to the end of the Rams game. And that they go no huddle. And I know the Eagles are not one of those teams that relies heavily on substitutions, so I understand that. But they kept going, and the Eagles were running out of gas. You could see that they were tired based on how the Rams were attacking. And then I think the Rams in my opinion, made a gigantic mistake, and they huddled. Like, what are you doing? Like, don't let those guys breathe. It's like, no, I'm not rooting for anybody. I'm just watching as an observer. How concerning was it that the way I know it's Stafford. I got that part. He's got a ring, right? But how concerning was it the way they attacked it, going no huddle, and the Eagles seemed to be a little bit on their heels?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. I mean, number one, from that standpoint, Zach is the one with the green dot, and that was his first game. He had the green dot without Nakobe Dean, so lining people up. It just seemed like the Eagles were a little bit sluggish lining up in the right spots. Something to work on. Fortunately, they survived. I believe that the next time that happens, they'll be better. But let's kind of look back at the season. And week 2, Atlanta, the Falcons come down the field last minute, score, win the game. Jacksonville, Jaguars come down the field. Nakobe Dean interception in the end zone saves the game. Washington, week 16. Jaden Daniels comes down the field. Washington wins at the end of the game. So there have been instances this year where the Eagles have not gotten that last stop. And I feel like, Vic is, he talked about it after. He said everybody was in position to make the plays and give credit to the Rams and all that. But I got to believe that if it happens again, maybe he takes a different approach, that the drive before that last drive for the Rams last week was the one that was really concerning.
That's right.
I mean, the Rams ran 10 plays, went 70 yards, and took 1 minute and 40 seconds off the clock, forcing the Eagles' offense to come out, and a first down or two would have ended it. But, the Eagles played it very conservatively, and it came back to give the Rams another chance. So I got to believe at some point, Vic looks at it and goes, well, I don't know, maybe I'm doing something wrong here. Maybe we need to tighten it up here or do something different there, whatever it is, because it is too close for comfort at the end of the games when the Eagles are on defense with a lead, trying to keep a team out of the end zone. It just seems like they give up too much too easily.
I was surprised that, to be honest with you, Nick didn't take a timeout at some point in that drive, just so his defense could just catch a moment. Right? I mean, you've got to be able to.
Like they made it. Stafford made a really great throw on the sideline that Slay had great position on, mistimed his jump, and I get it. He was in a position, but it just can't keep happening where teams are just moving down the field, 4-man pressure, soft coverage, dink dunk. All of a sudden, they're at the 15-yard line.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying take the timeout because of something strategic. You take a timeout sometimes, just go, hey, everybody let's catch your breath. We'll be fresh for the next play, right? And that's a feel for the game thing, and that's always been my concern about Nick, his feel for the game. That moment, he didn't have it.
Well, that's not Nick. I mean, that's not Vic. That's Vic's call to make. But I'll tell you this also. I mean, I get it.
Dave, I disagree with you. That's the head coach's call. He has the ability to call the timeout.
He calls the timeout, but that needs, if you're giving your defensive coordinator full control of the defense, then he has to tell the head coach to take a timeout. So we'll agree to disagree, and that's fine. The point is,
that's fine.
This is why I think they probably didn't call a timeout, because then you're stopping the clock, and the Rams have no timeouts left. And so I kind of get it from that standpoint. Maybe a better strategy would be to force an incompletion. That would have been nice, right? Like, just do something to disrupt the flow of what the Rams were doing. But fair enough on your side. But and I know
fair enough on your side.
Timeout, but I think the cue has to come from Vic. I'm not sure that a head coach oversteps the boundaries, but maybe he does, of the defensive coordinator when you have somebody like Vic Fangio in that role.
And by the way, fair enough on your side. Okay. I just feel like there's a reason you are the head coach. Right?
Yeah. Well, sure.
Okay.
Hey, by the way, the good news is we're here to disagree. Fortunately, the Eagles survived.
Oh no, but you know what, Dave? It's a fun debate because neither one of us cares if we're right. I don't care if I'm right. I just thought I'd throw it out there and see what we got. Right. It doesn't matter. They won the game. That's all that matters. Now I want to get to a potential problem. I know we only got a minute to go here. He doesn't turn the ball over, but how tentative is Jalen Hurts the way he's playing right now?
Yeah, no doubt. I really believe. I know that everybody's talking about, and I think Jalen's done a great job with ball security. But I really believe that the Eagles need to strike with the passing game this weekend to, at the very least, keep the Washington Commanders defense honest. And this is a passing game that should be dynamic with the talent that they have. And I'm hoping that that's where the Eagles go with this early on Sunday's game.
Dave, doggone, you do a great job all the time. I appreciate you so much. Thanks a lot for being a part of the show today. I hate to say this. I think Washington may win. Something about Daniels, something about him. I don't know. And I'm just throwing darts, Dave. I think Washington might win.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Eagles have seen Washington. This will be the third time. They know how good Jaden is.
Yeah.
I think the loss of Sam Cosmi on the offensive line is huge. And the way that Washington won last time and the celebration on the field, I think it rankles this team. I think they were all PO'd coming out of Landover, Maryland. I think that means something. I really expect the Eagles to play a great game.
How's Juergens? Is it going to be Dickerson?
He's on the practice field today, so that's a really good sign.
So, okay, that's a big sign, because if he doesn't, then Dickerson would have to move over, right?
Not the worst thing in the world, right? Bigger body.
Oh, no. He
stud in college. Steen has played left guard. Your concern would be if a man goes down. But the Eagles have some depth here, and that is something enviable to have.
You got that right. It's nothing like depth. Good depth. And you know what? We have a depth of great guests, and you're one of them. Thanks, Dave, so much.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Anytime, my friend. Thank you. All right. That was an interesting point about coordinators calling timeouts versus the head coach. To me, like, you're the head coach, the ultimate manager for a reason. But I understand what Dave's saying. Maybe Vic told him, I don't want to take a timeout. Maybe he did tell him that. Right? Well, at that point, all right, now it does become a decision for the head coach. And he's like, all right, I'll trust my coordinator. It's a good point by Dave. All right, we'll take a break. This half hour brought to you by our good friends at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket, here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
There's something to be said about a sale with a handshake, a service technician who really knows what he's doing. They can explain it in English what the problem is. There's nothing better than having that friend you could trust in the area. That's Sunbury Motors, where you get selection, knowledgeable salespeople, and prices that fit your budget, and more important, that friend you can trust. Welcome to Sunbury Motors, Kia, Ford, and Hyundai. You could shop other dealers and compare prices, but at Sunbury Motors, you get their lowest price promise. They research the current used vehicle market and guarantee their used car prices are the lowest. If you find a lower price, Sunbury Motors will beat it. 3 dealers all in one. See their full new and pre-owned inventory at sunburymotors.com. Pick out a vehicle you like and schedule your test drive online. Follow them on Facebook. Sunbury Motors Ford and Hyundai, North 4th Street, Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf.